Hello my beautiful friends. Today we are going to be doing some window shopping together and taking a look at things that have been announced in the makeup world for this week and deciding whether or not we want to spend our hard-earned coin on. So if you are interested in seeing what is new in the makeup market, then go ahead and keep on watching and let's jump right on in. I'm gonna do my absolute best to keep this at a minimum. I'm gonna try to keep the rambling very minimal today because I am gonna be on a plane in like less than 24 hours and all I've packed is like frickin' shampoo. I need to get a move on to say the least, but pay or stay away never waits. So we are gonna be taking a look at things that have been announced in the makeup world. So why don't we go ahead and kick that off here with something new from a brand that I love, which is Luxe Beauty. Now they just came out with their Pastel Princess palette. Ugh, the name is just everything to me. But this guy is available now. It retails for $35 and there are 9 different shades in this palette. This palette is also limited edition. So obviously what we have here are some very basic pastel tones. When I look at this palette, I automatically think of the Strobe Creepy Cute palette. But honestly, if I had to choose between the two just based on formulas, I think I would rather go with Luxe Beauty just because I like their formula a little bit better. Just a smidge. Not a whole lot though. But obviously I own the Creepy Cute palette, so I don't really have a need for this palette. Although I absolutely love some of the colors in here. Honestly, I don't understand why the Creepy Cute palette and the Pastel Princess palette both have a gray and a black in them because it's a pastel palette. And am I missing something? Are gray and black pastel? Did I miss the memo here? Because to me, gray and black are like shadowy shades and they're not very pastel at all in my opinion. I don't know, maybe I just totally missed the mark with that one. So this palette is totally cute, but I simply just don't need it because I own one that looks almost exactly like it. I do have to commend them on the Pastel Princess name. Ugh, that name is everything. If I could have my own palette, I would name it Pastel Princess. I legitimately have like a list of names for potential palettes that I make up in my mind that I would one day like to come out with because I'm absolutely delusional and insane like that. And I had a name that was very similar to that in my notes. So I absolutely love that they named it Pastel Princess. I just wish that those last two colors were not gray and black and were something actually pastel. Am I alone in that thought? Is it just me? Let a girl know. Now, the next new makeup release is from a brand that I absolutely love, and I also love Luxe Beauty, so we are like on a roll as far as brands go for this week. But this is something new from Touch of Glam Beauty, and this is the Spellbound Part 2 palette. Apparently there was a Spellbound Part 1 that I completely missed. I don't know. So this collection contains 9 different tie-dye multichromes, and these are available now. Now they retail for $19.80 per shadow, or you can pick up the whole entire collection of 9 shadows for $158, which is a hefty price tag, but if you think about it, it's pretty discounted if you were to purchase them all individually. Now this is obviously a palette that you're going to spend a little bit more money on, or if you want the singles, you're going to spend a little bit more coin on them. But my god, are these gorgeous or what? And this is not abnormal for multichromes. Multichromes are pretty expensive. They get pretty pricey. I feel like the standard price tag that we've seen indie brands come out with as far as multichromes go is usually around the $18 to $22, just depending on where you're shopping. I've seen some that are a little cheaper, but it just kind of depends on what type of multichrome it is. It varies. It's very confusing. If you're confused just like I was, I made quite a few videos on different types of multichromes, so I'll go ahead and link those in the cards and down below in case you need some clarification on the different types of multichromes, because there are a lot, my friends. So you guys know me. I'm sure you already know that I collect multichromes like an absolutely insane hoarder over here, but these are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I just simply don't have the funds, if I'm being completely honest, to purchase, you know, $158 worth of multichromes at this time. I definitely have my eye on a few of the shades out of this collection, and I'm not opposed to spending the $19.80 because I know that these are going to be great. I love Touch of Glam Beauty. I have a buttload of their things, and I love all of them. But like I stated at the beginning of this video, I'm going on a little mini vacation tomorrow, and I don't doubt that one day in the future I'll probably end up adding one of these to my ever-expanding hoard of multichromes that I already own. But because I have to pay for hotel, food, and probably margaritas, I think I'm gonna go ahead and skip out on this one for right now at least. Now, Touch of Glam Beauty is on a roll with releases because not only are they releasing the Spellbound Part 2 palette, the beautiful tie-dye multichromes we just spoke about, but they are also releasing multi-shifting glitter. Now, we know that there are 6 different shades of these multi-shifting glitters coming out very soon, but we don't have a price, we don't have a date, we don't really have much information other than some gorgeous freaking swatches and some beautiful photos of the pans of glitter. Now these are all pressed glitters, and as I've stated before, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of pressed glitters. I do enjoy them, but I would rather have a glittery eyeshadow than have an actual pressed glitter. I know my opinion varies very differently than a lot of people's. It is definitely the unpopular opinion as far as glitters go. Now with all that being said, I think that these look absolutely gorgeous. I think that they are so fun and really innovative. I have not seen anybody come out with multi-dimensional, multi-shifting glitters yet, so that's super fun. Actually, I think that Dawn Eyes Cosmetics might have some loose multi-shifting glitters, but I'm not really a fan of loose glitter. If I'm going for glitter, I'm going the pressed route, but I think these are beautiful. Now I think out of all the shades, if I were to purchase one, I would get that beautiful yellowy, golden, orangey, bronzy glitter. Oh my god, it is stunning. I could totally see myself using that with a look like today's. But Amy, girl, where are the pinks? I need me like a pink, purple, blue, and maybe a little bit of yellow multi-shifting pressed glitter. Please, let's make it happen, please, for me. Not like I need more pink in my life, but I would absolutely love to see a pink multi-shifting pressed glitter sometime in the future. So next up is a palette that I feel like a lot of people, myself included, were very caught off guard by when they first saw it. And this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina Volume 1 palette. So I think the reason why I personally was so caught off guard by this palette, and why I think a lot of people were, is because when I first saw this, I was like, oh, Vizart's coming out with a new palette? Cool. And then I saw that it was Anastasia Beverly Hills and that it said Norvina in big bold letters on the front, and I was like, huh? What? That looks exactly like Vizart. Is that not Vizart? It looks like Vizart. Viziart, Vizart, Vizart. Everyone says it differently. Apples to oranges, right? I don't think that's accurate information. I just think that 2/3 of us are getting the actual name wrong. So this palette is very confusing for my noggin. I am very conflicted as far as my opinions on this palette goes. I look at it and I'm confused by the fact that it looks like a Vizart palette, but I also look at it and I really enjoy the first 2 rows, maybe even the first 3 rows of this palette, and then the bottom 2 are so confusing to me. We have reds, we have terracottas, oranges, yellows, and blues all put in one little group of shadows, I suppose, at the bottom 2 rows of the palette. That description was terrible, I'm sorry. You get what I'm saying? The bottom 2 rows just feel very mismatched and disjointed to me from what we're seeing on the top 3 rows, which feel very cohesive and quite frankly are totally my kind of eyeshadows as far as colors go. We got purples, we got pinks, we got all sorts of Norvina-esque colors, and I kind of feel like the top 3 rows of this palette are very reminiscent of what we saw when the original Norvina palette came out. We had purples, we had pinks, we had some cool toned taupes, but everything was very muted in that palette, which I used to not really enjoy as far as that palette goes, but recently I've been kind of rediscovering a newfound respect for it. I feel like the first 3 rows of this palette just remind me so much of that first OG Norvina palette, and it just seems like an upgraded version of it. It seems like they just turned up the volume a little bit, just turned up the brightness and the intensity on the actual color scheme that they had going on in the first one. To me that makes total sense because this is called the Norvina Volume 1 palette. It still has Norvina in the name, so you think it would be reminiscent of the original palette, right? Then those bottom 2 rows just throw me the heck off. I don't understand. I don't understand the color combination there. I do think that the colors are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I'm just confused by the selection and the way that they're kind of portrayed in the actual palette, if that makes sense. I'm sure to half of you guys it just sounds like I'm nagging and just nitpicking right now, but I'm just genuinely confused about it. I don't necessarily hate it, I don't necessarily dislike it. I could definitely see myself using this palette, but I'm just very confused. I do, however, really enjoy the price tag, 60 bucks for 25 shadows. I think that's a great deal as far as Anastasia goes. How many shadows do we usually get in Anastasia palettes? 12? 14. Like I said in last week's Pay or Stay Away, I don't purchase Anastasia palettes that often. You know, I think that the palette itself is very aesthetically pleasing. It reminds me of Vizart palettes, like I said, and I find Vizart palettes to be very aesthetically pleasing and minimalistic and clean. I love the purple packaging, of course. We know Norvina loves purple, and we know that I love purple too, so I think it's beautiful, and I do really like some of the colors in this palette. I'm just really confused by the 2 seemingly different color groups that have meshed together for this one palette. I don't quite understand. You'll have to let me know how you feel about the ABH palette, because I don't know if I'm just alone in this opinion or if it truly is just kind of a weird combination of colors. It's not to be said that it isn't a pretty palette though, it's just very, very perplexing. And I have saved the most expensive release for the very final release for this week's Payers Day Away. And of course we're talking Pat Mcgrath. Now she just announced the Midnight Sun palette, which will be available on September 6th, and brace yourself folks for this price tag, because she's going to retail for $125, as Pat Mcgrath's palettes typically do. So this palette contains 10 shades, as her palettes typically do, and I'm going to read to you what her Instagram says about this palette. According to Pat Mcgrath, this palette contains magical bronzes, wicked violets, mystical crimsons, and goddess golds to eclipse eyes with multi-dimensional effects. And although this palette probably will cost me my firstborn child and probably my kidney and my liver as well, this palette is beautiful. We can't deny that. I think that the color scheme is really unique and interesting, and I think it goes with the Midnight Sun theme perfectly. Also, I love that theme for just an eyeshadow palette in general. Honestly, when I'm looking at this palette, it kind of reminds me and is giving me the same kind of vibes that I got from the lower two rows of the Norvina Volume 1 palette. I feel like they would make a great palette if they were just smashed together into one. And some of these colors in the Pat Mcgrath palette are absolutely beautiful, and I know I would use them, but I do for a fact know that there are some shades that I wouldn't use, like that navy blue. Although I think some people look gorgeous in navy blue, I am not one of those people, folks. I look like absolute trash in navy blue. So I avoid navy blue at all costs. I am just one of those folks that throws blue eyeshadow on my eyes thinking that it's gonna look hip and cool, and everyone who sees me for the day ends up feeling nostalgic for the 80s, because that is exactly what I look like. So this palette is beautiful, but I know there's things I'm not gonna use out of it, and I kind of made a promise to myself, if I'm gonna purchase a Pat Mcgrath palette and spend the $125 and give over my firstborn child and my kidney, then I am gonna need to make sure that I'm gonna use every single color in that palette. It's gonna need to be my perfect palette for me to want to purchase it from Pat Mcgrath for that price tag. I have been wishing and praying and begging for the last like 2 years or so, ever since Pat Mcgrath basically dropped her brand, for her to come out with those gorgeous topper sparkly shadows as singles. And she came out with singles last year, but none of them were the beautiful baked sparkly goodness that she puts in her palettes, and I was so disappointed because I have just been counting down the days until she finally does that. I honestly don't think it'll ever happen, because if it were to happen, it would have happened when she was coming out with singles, right? Am I just being a pessimist there? Probably. But the only time that I'm going to be purchasing Pat Mcgrath eyeshadows is if I love every single color in the palette, or if she ever ends up dropping those single shadows that are that beautiful, sparkly, baked eyeshadow goodness formula. Those are the only two exceptions I have for Pat Mcgrath eyeshadows as of right now. I am just personally not willing to burn my bank account to the ground for these types of eyeshadow palettes, although they might be beautiful. I just simply can't do it. I have learned from my mistakes, my friends. But with that being said, that is going to be wrapping up this week's Payers Day Away. I am off to go pack my bags, get everything packed and ready to go, and I'll probably still end up forgetting things, because that happens to me every single time. Legitimately, I have to buy a toothbrush like every single place I travel to, because I always leave mine at home for some reason. But let me know in the comments what you are going to be picking up from this week's new makeup releases, and let me know if there's anything that I talked about here that you want to tell everyone else about, that you want to tell me about, that you're excited about, that you're not excited about. Let us know in the chat down below. But if you are not already subscribed and you enjoy window shopping with me and you want to keep window shopping with me every single Monday, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. This way you can keep up with all the new makeup releases and chat with me here every single week. And if you enjoyed the video, I would absolutely love it if you gave me a big old thumbs up. It helps the channel, it helps out microscopic YouTubers such as myself, so if you choose to do so, then I greatly appreciate you. But with that being said, I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are, and thank you so much for joining me here today and spending your time and listening to me ramble. I hope to see you next time. Bye!